Good, very early Monday morning of the 21st week in Ordinary Time. I'm a little bit late making these, so you can see this is very early in the morning. It's it's not that early. It's 20 after 5. No, I've been up since 3:30, something like that. Anyway, I'm reading the Gospel, and I'm just sharing the thought with you. It's it's the Monday of the 21st week of the year. And this is really interesting because our Lord is taking a shot at the scribes and the Pharisees, but this applies to all leadership of any religion, and I think, of course, the church. I think now, forget about Pharisees, think about priests. Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You lock the kingdom of heaven before men. You do not enter yourselves, nor do you allow entrance to those trying to enter. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You traverse sea and land to make one convert. And when that happens, you make him a child of Gehenna twice as much as yourself." Now, that doesn't apply to the clergy, our clergy. Then, whatever. It's not. That's going too far, okay? But here is what gets interesting, not now, but what many of us maybe who are watching this goes. You go back 50 or 60 years. So a geezer like me at 83 can go back 70 years and think of the life of the faith back in the late 40s and the early 50s, before the council. Think of that as the transitional moment was in the 1960s, the council. Well, watch what he says here. "Woe to you, blind guides, who say, if one swears by the temple, it means nothing. But if one swears by the gold of the temple, one is obligated. Blind fools, which is greater, the gold or the temple that made the gold sacred? And if you say, if one swears by the altar, it means nothing. But if one swears by the gift on the altar, one is obligated. You blind ones, which is greater, the gift or the altar that makes the gift sacred? One who swears by the altar swears by it and all that it is upon it. One who swears by the temple swears by it and by him who dwells in it. And one who swears by heaven swears by the throne of God and by him who is seated on it." Now, I don't know if anybody ought to go around making those kind of oaths. Okay, the church really dissuades on that. See, that's what swearing means. It means you take an oath, all right? But it's interesting when it says, if one swears by the temple, it means nothing, but if swears by the gold of the temple, one's obligated. Well, you want to know the truth? If you ask me to say Mass for you, or remember you at Mass, I'm morally obliged to do so. And I'm deep, morally and religiously obliged. Because I am a priest of the church. And it is my role to offer worship and prayer for the church. And for the people of the church, not the abstraction, the ecclesial entity, but the people of God. You see, you, me, my family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The people of Providence has presented into my life, you see. The very fact you ask me in that profoundly deep religious sense, I'm obligated, not out of fear or duty, but I'm obligated out of my role in your life and the love I have for you and you have for me. And precisely that role that you precisely, I'm saying the same thing over again, that you asked me, qua priest, to remember you precisely at Mass. I'm saying this terribly wrong, but you got it. I'm obliged whether you pony up or not, and I don't want you to pony up. I'm obliged because I said, yes, I'll remember you. And I do. And I remember saying, my memory, I forget things. I said, for all whom I have prayed for all who have asked for my prayers or need them, whether they ask for them or not. I don't forget you. Even when I do, I don't, you see. But the church is funny on that, and I'll show you where. But if you give me $5 to say Mass, now I'm obligated. That's the truth. Obligated in a very technical, legal sense. I have to do it. So much so, let me tell you something. I don't know if it still goes on, but in the monastery, that's a great place to see the church in practice. Every time, let me try it this way here. Whenever someone dies, one of the monks dies, a priest, not a brother, but a priest, one of the things the rector does, examines that person's room to look for any mass intentions he may have had, and makes, not because he's selfish, but because he knows that man was obligated. Hence, those masses will get said now by us. It's that big a concern. Are there any mass intentions? That's the way you put it. It includes a stipend. If you find that there, you have to say those masses, and we will do it. You see, that's interesting. The obligation transcends you, meaning even if you accept a mass stipend to say a mass, you have to say it. And if something should happen and you can't, you die, you get run over by whatever. And we're aware of it. We find the stipend. We find it on your desk, in your bed, or whatever it may be. That mass gets said. You see, that is the same obligation. So in that sense, the church is not that far away from this text. And it is precisely because it has been a stipend that somebody sacrificed and gave to you money of some sort, thus obliging you to say the Mass. And when somebody just says, gee, would you remember my family at Mass? I'm not obligated in the same way, but I am obligated by the heart. Yes, I'll say Mass for you. I will not forget you. That's different. You give me $5, I have to. Sometimes I think, don't give me anything. Give it to the church. Don't oblige me that way. Okay? It's very canonical. It's canon law. Okay? Is it a good thing? Well, yes, in its way, because it's orderly. Okay? But is it religiously? No. The obligation to say Mass comes from faith and the heart, love. One person said, would you remember my grandmother in your prayers? It's 10 years since she died. Yes, I will. I'm morally obliged to them. I'm not out of some kind of servility, but out of a desire of love to hear that person's desire for prayer and to answer it. See? Obliged by love, not by stipend. See? So in a way, the church is both practices and doesn't practice the same thing. Who swears by the gold, he's the one obliged. Well, you know what? Yes. Unfortunately, we are. To be obligated is one thing. And I think we're morally obligated simply by the request, not by the gold. But turn into canon law, if there is gold in the picture, somebody gives you $2 or $100, 50 cents, you're obliged. In that technical, canonical, legal sense, you're obliged. That's the truth. Yeah. You'd be surprised how the church regulates the saying of Mass for stipends. You'd be surprised. You can't manufacture them. See? Church is cognitive, very aware of it. She regulates the practice of Mass for Mass stipends. See? What people offer you. And that's not every Mass, but it's a lot. It's the support of the church, you say. Part of the support of the clergy in the church. Anyway, I hope I'm not wasting your time. But when I read this, I think, yeah, the Pharisees get their butt handed to them by our Lord. And what do? We turn around and do the same thing. When I look at the Pharisees, the scribes and the Pharisees, I don't look down at them at all. I think that sounds like me. It sounds like us. Yeah. There's a joke in the monastery. It says the canon law is the revenge of the Pharisees on the church, because in many ways we do practice it very, very legalistically, including liturgy, very especially liturgy. Yeah. See? It's not a bad thing unless you lose the spiritual sense of what you're doing. If you're just doing it to fulfill the rules, holy cow. Then you're as guilty as the Pharisees appeared to be guilty here, you see. Anyway, just a thought. For those of you who are old, I think you can remember the kind of canonical world of faith we were raised in. All these rules. Do you remember? All kinds. From eating 2 ounces of meat on Friday to, you had to, anybody who wants to go back to those good old days, Let them have it. Not me. I will never go back to it. Those were not the good old days. They were the days of Pharisaical revenge on the church. I mean it. Thank God for the council, the Second Vatican Council. It freed the heart of the church from rules and laws to love. That's John the 23rd. He was right.